Hello, everyone, and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick video, Core Pick live stream for today, Friday, August 25th. As always, if you join me for the very first time, this will be the way this video is structured. We're going to go over a recap of yesterday's picks, see how they turned out. Pretty small slate yesterday, and then go over to RotoWire, talk about the weather report, any games that could potentially have weather that could either delay or postpone the games. And then we'll get over to FanDuel, talk about my core 5 picks for today. It's going to be one pitcher, 4 hitters. So it's going to be based off a combination of past performances in their respective matchup, plus kind of recent performances as well. And then last but not least, we'll get over to my cheat sheet, which is posted up on Facebook, Twitter, and the YouTube community tab. We'll be looking at it over on the YouTube community tab and talking about my top GPP teams to stack. If you're interested in more in-depth notes for slates Monday through Friday, also be sure to check out the Patreon at patreon.com/Coach Craig Sports. Small monthly donation over there. You get more in-depth hitter versus pitcher matchup notes, whether or not I would consider a hitter in play, risky play, or a straight up avoid. And then last but not least, some additional stacks that do not fit on the cheat sheet if there are any available on this specific day. But without further ado, we'll get started with the recap of yesterday's picks. At the pitcher position, we ultimately went with Justin Steele at $10,400. Got to 34 points. Not a bad start for him whatsoever. Did ultimately give him a push. Was looking for at least 36 points out of him. Ended up being the 4th overall pitcher yesterday. Obviously, there was only 10 pitchers out there going. So, could have been better, could have been worse at the same time, but not anybody that really hurt us or helped us at the same time. And then at second base, we had Nico Horner at $3,600. You could also roll him out as shortstop if you really wanted to. Got to 15.7 points yesterday. So he was a hit. Ultimately ended up being the 5th overall second baseman on yesterday's slate. And then we had Tim Anderson at $2,500 at shortstop. Got to 9 points. So did give him a hit. He was a cheap pay down option. So 9 points or more out of him is going to be a hit. And then the last 2 that we did have were our outfielders and Dalton Varsho. $2,600, got to 6 points, so did ultimately end up giving him a push. And then Ian Happ at $3,200, getting to 9.5 points, was also a push. So a little bit kind of lackluster day. If you had some other decent picks alongside these, you had a chance to cash in, but was kind of lacking that extra oomph to really get your lineup over the top. But not a bad day, just not a good day at the same time overall. But with that being said, we're going to stop sharing this screen. We'll get over to RotoWire and talk about those potential weather spots for today. So we're just getting that pulled up now. Hopefully, we're kind of avoiding the lagging bug today because it's been kind of bad this week. So I do apologize for that. And we're going to get started with the 12-game main slate for today. The first game is one of the weather spots. So we have Baltimore and Colorado. This game is out in Baltimore for 57% chance of rain at this point in time. The good thing is Baltimore's, crew is pretty good at not getting games postponed, but there could ultimately end up being a delay in this game. There was a delay out there yesterday, so we'll just keep an eye on that one as the day moves along. And then we get over to Philadelphia, 33% chance of rain for the game with the Phillies and the Cardinals, so that's another one that we'll be monitoring throughout the day. Mainly East Coast teams, or East Coast games, I should say, that are going to have the weather spots for today overall. Pittsburgh and Chicago looks pretty good out in Pittsburgh, only 5% chance there. Toronto's in the dome, don't need to worry there. Then we get over to Boston, 59% chance of rain, so that's definitely going to be one that we're monitoring throughout the day. We're going against the Dodgers today and Lance Lynn. And then, we get down to Chicago with the White Sox and the A's, only 11% chance of rain there, so nothing too major at this point in time. And then we're going to keep moving along. So out in New York with the Mets and the Angels, 32% chance of rain. That's going to be another one that we're going to ultimately end up watching. Brewers are in a dome since that retractable stadium. And then let's see if there's anything else major here at this point in time. Doesn't look like anything else major. It's mainly going to be those East Coast teams for the weather spots today. Keep an update on it throughout the day. If anything does majorly change weather-wise, we'll leave it down in the comments. But with that being said, we're going to get off this page. We'll get over to FanDuel and talk about my core 5 picks for today. And with that being said, those core 5 picks, like I said, if you missed it already, if you're brand new to the stream, it's going to be one pitcher, 4 hitters, combination of past history and their respective matchups, and then that combined with some recent history as well. So at the pitcher position, there is a lot of viable pitchers today. Ultimately end up on DCs. He is going against Oakland A's today. Should be a pretty favorable matchup for him. He's got decent but limited history versus them in his career. You look at what he's done on the season, about 29.5 fantasy points, $9,400. The ERA is at 4.5 and only 5 wins at this point in time. So the starts that he's pitched well, he's pitched really well. The other starts where he's walked too many guys, given up too many hits, everything else like that, those are kind of the performances that you want to avoid. So probably not a guy that's going to get a lot of ownership today. Maybe he does just because of the Oakland matchup, but still has a high end upside at the end of the day. Had 22 points in 2022, or excuse me, had 22 points this season against the Oakland A's. And then last season he had 55 and 46. So some pretty strong upside to be had there. Not pitching quite as well as he was last year, but the hit and miss performances out of him, we're just kind of banking on him getting that high end upside today against the Oakland A's, which is a really favorable matchup. Then we're going to move down to second base. We got Whit Merrifield here. You could also play him in the outfield if you really want to do so. He's only $2,900 at this point in time, averaging just under 10 fantasy points per game going against the Cleveland Guardians. It is Tanner Bybee, who's pitched really well as a rookie so far this year on the mound. But in their lone performance against each other, Whit Merrifield was 3 for 3 versus Tanner Bybee. So some pretty strong upside to be had there. If you look at what Merrifield's done on the season, 291 average, 11 home runs, 57 RBIs. Obviously, he's a guy that can steal some bases here and there. Nice little bounce back year for him overall, $2,900. A little bit of a pay down spot for him as well. And then if you look at what he's done lately, he's got a hit in 11 of his last 14 games and 4 multi-hit games during that time frame too as well. So been doing pretty well as of late. I can't really complain too much there. Do like the upside, a little bit of a pay down spot today as well. And then we're going to get over to third base with Ke'Bryan Hayes. And he's a guy that's kind of moved up in price tag as of late, but it's due to his recent performances. But he's going against Kyle Hendricks today. He's 6 for 15 with 2 home runs versus him in his career. So some pretty good history there to be had at that. If you look at what Ke'Bryan Hayes has done in totality on the season, really streaky hitter. He came out of the gate really hot, then kind of cooled off, then kind of a little bit of a hot streak there, then cooled off. And he's dealt with some injuries this year too as well. 258 average on the season. 9 home runs, 46 RBIs. Not really going to do too much in the running department, stolen bases or anything else like that. $3,100, averaging just over 9 fantasy points per game on the season. Like I said, his price tag's moved up a little bit as of late. He's got a hit in, let's see, what is it? In 7 out of his last 9 games, he's got at least 1 hit. And there is 5 multi-hit games during that stretch. So you got the multi-hit games, you got the strong upside there, you got the good matchup against Kyle Hendricks today. Could be a really favorable one for him overall. Probably not going to get too much ownership too as well. And then we're going to keep moving down. So we are going to Ian Happ, who was in our lineup yesterday. He's $3,200. Got really good history versus Mitch Keller in his career. 7 for 16 with 2 home runs. He's got 1 hit exactly in 8 out of his last 9 games. So we're not getting the multi-hit upside that we like out of him. Hopefully some of that power turns around today. Hopefully we get that multi-hit game out of him and give us that little extra upside. But if you look at what Ian Happ's done on the season in totality, it's going to be a 238 average, 14 home runs, 59 RBIs, averaging just over 10 fantasy points per game at $3,200. Looking like a pretty solid play once again. Then we're going to move down once again to our final core pick, and it's going to be Eddie Rosario for the Atlanta Braves. $2,800. Nice little bounce back season for him at this point in time. It's going against Logan Webb, which, pretty decent pitcher, but Eddie Rosario is 4 for 7 versus him in his career. And when we look at Rosario, he's on a modest 5-game hitting streak. 3 of those games have been multi-hit games as well. And then if you look at what he's done on the season so far, 263 average, 20 home runs, 63 RBIs, averaging just over 9 fantasy points per game, $2,800. Looks like a pretty good pay down spot for him today. Probably not a guy that's going to draw a lot of ownership, even though, Braves are pretty popular on most slates. But, going against Logan Webb, maybe people are shying away from them just a little bit today. So that is what I'm looking at in terms of my core 5. Obviously, if you don't like one of these specific players, you can obviously swap them out for somebody else. Obviously, stacks is going to play a pretty big role in GPPs. So some of these might get into some stacks, some might get into different ones. Some of them you can roll out as one-offs and kind of get creative there as always. But with that being said, we're going to get off this screen. We'll get over to the YouTube community tab and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for today overall. So it's kind of an interesting slate because we got some good pitching going on out there. We got some guys that don't have too much history versus their respective matchups. So it's going to make for a very interesting slate overall. I am going to start off with the Baltimore Orioles going against Kyle Freeland. His ERA is up over 5 at this point in time. This game is in Baltimore. There is that potential rain factor. Orioles really don't have history versus him in the past. So kind of a little bit of a shot in the dark here, which is something you're going to see with a lot of these teams down here as well. And then we have the Dodgers. They are going against Cutter Crawford for the Boston Red Sox, most likely. Yesterday was kind of up in the air. It looks like Crawford at this point in time. That could change. If it changes throughout the day, I'll leave a comment down below. no real history there versus him. The only guy that has history versus him in the past is Ahmed Rosario, who's 3 for 8 versus him. So maybe that's somebody that we consider playing today. But do you like the upside of this Dodgers lineup once again? Then we get over to the Chicago White Sox, and it looks like it's going to be Zach Neal as the opener for the Oakland A's today. Sean Newcomb allegedly behind him, so we'll see how that all works out for them. Zach Neal, kind of bounced around between AAA and the majors most of his career. Not really much history there versus the Chicago White Sox. Tim Anderson is 2 for 3 versus him, but that's some very limited sample size for all their hitters that have actually faced him. And then when you look at Sean Newcomb, not too much history there as well. And he's a left-handed pitcher, and White Sox typically at left-handed pitching pretty well. And then last but not least, we have the Arizona Diamondbacks. They're going against Brett Kennedy, who before this season hadn't pitched in the majors in about 3 years. So some pretty strong upside to be had there. Ketel Marte is really like the only one that's faced him in the past before, 1 for 2, but some strong upside there. Like I said, with the stacks today, not a long list of history there to be had, but get creative with some of these stacks. Figure out what works best for you. If you have any additional questions related to MLB DFS whatsoever, be sure to drop them down in the comments and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. And then as always, I'll be listing the major weather updates that do come out throughout the day, as well as many starting lineups as I can get to throughout the afternoon and evening. But with that being said, it's pretty much what I do have at this point in time. I'm also very interested in who your guys' favorite play is for today overall. Could be somebody from my core 5 picks, could be somebody from my top GPP stacks, could be a completely different player, which is probably a pretty good chance today that it is with the 12-game main slate in totality. But I'm very interested in hearing who that is for you. And then with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, please consider subscribing. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now it is MLB DFS Monday through Friday. We got CFL DFS videos coming out once a week. I believe the only person on YouTube that is making those videos, so definitely be sure to check that out. That's over on the DraftKings side. And then once we get rolling around to the NFL regular season, we'll be doing some DFS content for that as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have at this point in time. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in, whether you're watching live or on replay. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS tonight.